The economy is appearing to end 2013 on a high note, or a very high note. Wall Street's trading in record territory. This as new data shows signs the job market is also improving. The Labor Department is reporting the number of Americans applying for unemployment fell 42,000 last week to a seasonally adjusted 338,000. That beat analysts' expectations. Steve Moore is an economist, also a Fox News contributor, joining us from Chicago. Someone once said to me this was not the worst recession we have ever had, but it is the worst recovery. Are these fundamental numbers that we're seeing coming through here proof that the awful recovery is now over? We've waited 5 years and now there's a light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, let's hope so. And by the way, I'm the one who's been saying for the last 4 years this has just been a real half-baked recovery. And for a lot of Americans, Leland, it hasn't been much of a recovery at all. We haven't seen the job growth, and we certainly haven't seen the income growth. But, you know, over the last 6 months, and especially over the last couple of months, we've really seen a nice pickup. That's not to say that people aren't still facing a lot of hardship, and there's still a lot of unemployed in this country. But, you know, you said it very well. You're seeing a bump up in employment, which is a great sign. You mentioned the fact that the stock market has been on a tear. And, of course, we just got some data that came out this morning that shows that businesses are starting to spend again. That's a sign, Leland, that they're optimistic. If they're spending, they think more customers are going to come into their doors and they're going to expand their operations in 2014.
You mentioned this, though, Steve, that while there are folks who are now getting off the unemployment rolls, and there certainly are more jobs, the incomes have not followed. There has not been the raises that people are going to get. I'm wondering, is this recovery as we're seeing it now affecting everyone across the board, or do the rich get richer and the poor get squeezed?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, you're exactly right that the strange thing about this recovery, and by the way, Leland, we're in the 5th year of a supposed recovery that began in June of 2009. Since June of 2009, the average middle-class family has lost $2,000 in purchasing power in terms of their income. So that's a big problem. For a lot of families, it's as big a problem as the unemployment rate. And so hopefully, Leland, let's keep our fingers crossed on this. As jobs come back and the labor market gets a little bit tighter, then workers can start asking for wage increases, and they're going to hopefully get those raises in 2014.
Well, we'll see if the raises come. I know the one thing, though, that, Steve, you've talked about is the issue of retailers. And Harris had a question about that in terms of where people are actually spending their money.
Yeah, you know what? I think for the first time we may really be seeing, Steve, a huge punch going from online to on the street. Old Navy, Best Buy, Lowe's, Barnes & Noble, all in this article by Forbes magazine, which is saying that, you know what, the big box stores are hemorrhaging customers. Those are their words. I mean, those are the percentages. 46% in some cases of customers not going into the stores.
Well, welcome to the new world of shopping. You know, the internet has changed everything in our lives, and now it's really affecting how we buy things. And there's no question about it. As every year has gone on for the last 10 years, those online sales continue to escalate, and that means people are buying less things at the stores. It's a big problem for retailers, and we're going to see how much this trend continues. We don't have the final numbers yet in terms of this Christmas season, in terms of how good the numbers were overall, but we do know online shopping was up, and at the store shopping looks to have been flat.
I still like to go to the bookstore, though, and flip through to see what I'm going to get. I just must be the only one, apparently.
Well, I was at the malls the last 4 or 5 days. They were crowded, but you know what? Some people go to the malls, look for the things that they want, and then they go and buy them online because you don't have to pay a tax.
Well, you don't have to pay a tax. It's a lot easier. It gets shipped to you. If UPS actually brings your presents, which this year they were a little late on, but we'll see how all of this affects things in 2014, especially those job numbers. Thank you very much.
I'm very cautiously optimistic. I'm very optimistic about 2014.
If you're that optimistic,
If
you're that optimistic, you don't have to keep both fingers crossed.
Oh, you got to do that, too. Great to be with you guys.
Steve Moore, we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Harris?